진주전입니다.
We will launch American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars. With this bold declaration, President Trump reignited global interest in space exploration, turning attention once again toward space. How close are we to realizing the dream of a true space age? Today, we are joined by John Lee, the Vice Administrator of the Mission Directorates at the Korea AeroSpace Administration, who has led U.S. space projects for 30 years at the White House and NASA. Vice Administrator brings insights into the future of space exploration. Vice Administrator, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
So the Korea AeroSpace Administration is nearing its one-year anniversary, right?
Close, a little over 9 months.
So can you briefly explain what CASA does and what your role involves?
Okay, so the administration was established last year in order to promote basically the aerospace sector, aerospace industry, and space exploration. And so those are the fundamental goals of the administration. But one thing I do want to add is that beyond that, sometimes we often don't look at the intangible. I think the agency or the administration exists in order to stimulate the young people to imagining what the world will be in the 10 to 20 years. And I think one of the roles that we have is to supercharge our young people in terms of their dreams and their aspirations for what the space may offer for them.
So since humanity landed on the moon, it's been over 50 years, right?
That's correct.
So how has the global space industry evolved so far, and what aspect actually led to the establishment of CASA?
So the space sector has sort of been dormant in terms of its exploration of the moon, but there have been in recent years a lot of interest in exploring the moon.
Yes.
And so the space sector has been gradually growing. And based on some estimates, there were roughly around 524 trillion won in the space sector in 2023. And the expectation is that by 2040, that will nearly triple to about 1,600 trillion won.
So let's talk about some history in
Sure.
the past. Actually, during the Cold War, the US and the Soviet Union were competing each other in the space domain. But while the influence of Russia has waned, relatively speaking, then there is a rise of China as a superpower in the space domain. So what do you think actually contributed to China's rapid rise?
So I think one of the reasons they rose is because they have continually, in fact, let me just go back. They have made it a national policy to promote space, number one, but also not only put the policy in place, but they actually have invested very heavily into this sector. And so I think their aspiration is to be the top power, and so obviously for that reason they have invested, but not only in terms of the funds required, but also invested into the people who will be doing it. For example, the number of engineers that are working in the sector is a huge number. And so I think by investing in the future back 10 some years ago, they have actually made so much progress since then.
So do you think the government actually is behind this growth in China?
I think not only China, but I think every country is involved in investing in some form or another. The issue really is how actively have they been investing, and that was the key. And I believe China has done its job of promoting it, and we see that in the news today.
But considering the cost and challenges involved in space development, not many countries are actually actively participating in space development, in my opinion. So, in your judgment, how would you assess South Korea's level of, space development?
Okay, so one of the barriers in coming into space is that there's a lot of initial investment cost. And unfortunately, the barrier is very high, and therefore, I think a lot of the countries, while they have a lot of interest in this, they probably cannot, they do not have the policy in place to promote space. Having said that, however, if you look at the trend around the world, a lot of the smaller countries that have not actively been involved in this sector are getting in now, knowing that this is a growth sector, and that the future really is very bright. It's also an opportunity for the economy to grow, and so therefore investments are coming in. Now, in terms of where Korea is, we know that because of this need, the government and the people felt that it was necessary to establish CASA, and therefore that's the reason we came into existence, and this is the reason we need to be involved in growing the Korean sector. I will say that the sector is primed to grow, and it's a matter of being able to stimulate and excite, and not only growth. And I have been saying this wherever I go, is that what I'm expecting to see is for the aerospace sector not only to expand but actually to explode. And in order for us to become the fifth nation in terms of spacefaring nations, we really need to see the explosion in the private sector, particularly the small and medium-sized companies.
Yeah, of course. Well, perhaps one of the major events that we are expecting to see is possibly the fourth launch of Nuri rockets. And but there are actually many sectors in the space development, such as aviation, transportation, and exploration. So in your opinion, what area is Korea currently focusing on?
Okay, so in terms of focus, I think this week we released the strategic plan, and there were 6 major projects that we're going to be undertaking. So I think once you see that, you'll see the 6 focus areas that we will have. Having said that, I don't, one of the things that it's important is that all of the sectors that are under the mission directives are important. When someone asks me, for example, you have kids, which one is more important? And the answer, of course, is they're both important.
Yes,
okay?
Of course.
And all the 4 the mission directed areas are all very important and have an integral part in making the aerospace sector grow.
Well, actually, I heard that CASA's strategic plan includes reusable launch vehicles.
That's correct.
With the success of SpaceX Starship's case in mind, do you think Korea can achieve such a similar advancement?
Well, given the fact that the Starship has such a lead, it's going to be difficult to say that we're going to be at that level anytime soon. We have been in the catch-up mode, and we certainly need to invest into this area. Having said that, I need to say that instead of trying to catch up, I think the idea that I've been promoting is that we need to leapfrog. In other words, invest into those technologies that will leapfrog us into the areas where others are not or are not there. Therefore, we take a lead, and so that takes some sort of, it takes more risk to go in that direction. But I think by going smaller and many, I think that will give us an opportunity to do that.
Let me then ask you about the general space policy.
Sure.
Well, the recent Third National Space Committee actually set a new directions for South Korea's space policy. So can you share with us the major decisions made during that meeting?
Yes, so I won't go into the details because I believe that the details already been released. But the point that I want to make is that there was the national policy, and then what we have released this week was the strategic plan that sort of outlines what we plan to do for the next 20 years. But what's coming next, I think, is probably where the focus is going to be, because it involves releasing the roadmap that specifically outlines what we will be doing 1 year. Actually, the 1 year, you'll see that it's already been sort of tied to the budget already. But the 3-year horizon and the 5-year horizon, which we expect to release by end of March, I think you'll see a lot more details in terms of where we are going with this.
So in this new space era, we are seeing lots of private companies are coming in to contribute, in this space domain. So I heard in Japan, for example, has over 100 space-related startups.
Okay.
So I'm curious about South Korea's case. How South Korea's private companies are doing right now, and are there any plans to boost their contribution?
Yes. So based again, let me see if I remember the numbers correctly. I believe in 2013, some 147 companies were identified as participating in the aerospace sector. By 2023, 10 years later, the number is, I think, somewhere around 469. Of that, 51 is a startup. So if you look at the trend, it's actually tripled in the last 10 years. There are companies that are going in, small companies, startups are going in, and so we know that the trend is there, and the expectation is that sector will grow. In terms of what CASA is doing, it has I think it's called the New Space Fund, where we're actually actively investing into new technologies, but also in terms of the infrastructure and in terms of being able to build satellites and develop of that sort. There's also what they call the triangular clusters that's going to be investment. So those are the kinds of activities that we've been involved in, trying to stimulate, trying to make this sector to grow.
So you've been so far at the forefront of South Korea's space development.
Yes.
So what do you think are the key steps that need to be taken for South Korea? And will there be any major collaboration between government and private sector?
Okay, so I think there are two components. One is we need to grow domestically, but also we also need to expand our horizon so that we understand that we are part of the global economy, and therefore we need to build relationship with other spacefaring nations. And so that's what I've been doing is actually in the last 9 months is looking at visiting all the companies to sort of get the small and medium. Actually, I've been visiting a lot of companies to get the lay of the land to see where we are, but also been contacting our foreign partners to forge relationships so that we have a mutual collaborative environment in which that we can help each other, but also to make the economy grow together. And so the emphasis is not just domestic, but it's also global. And hopefully, when we set our plans for the next few years, that the global relationship will expand and will grow.
So, do you have any final remark as regarding the South Korea's space development?
So, one of the reasons I came to Korea was because I saw a lot of potential. We're sitting on a lot of potential. Korea has a lot of smart people who are very ambitious. So the question is, what do we need to do to lead them to the next step? And I believe that the role of CASA is to take them to the next level. Just as in fact, this morning I was looking at who was the first person to go to the top of Mount Everest. Of course, everyone knows it is Edmund Hillary. And the reason he got there is he had a Sherpa who helped him. I think his name is Tenzing Norgay, I believe his name. A lot of people don't know his name, but certainly they know Sir Edmund Hillary. But I think the role is for us to be in that position where we are helping everyone else to reach the summit, to reach the top. and hopefully CASA will do its job right. And if we do it right, we will get there in the next 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay.
As South Korea is trying to become a major player in space development, I hope to see more progress and achievement in the coming years.
Yes, great. Yes.
Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.